We've seen lots of metas come and go. But there's one that I think, and not just myself, but a lot of us think is here to stay. And that is prediction markets.
We would say we are the world's first decentralized motorsport exchange.
Big aspirations right there.
We want fans and creators to have a voice. What does RPM do for fans and creators? Well, it helps monetize, ultimately, their racing knowledge. It is evolution of trading. People can trade events or predict certain things and then monetize them.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Base Show. I have the founder who is driving the force behind prediction markets, but for motorsports. Let us all welcome Benjamin Jarrett, the founder and CEO of RPM.xyz. Welcome to the Base Show, Benjamin.
Thank you. Nice intro.
Well, I mean, that's how we do it, man.
That's how you roll.
I guess, most importantly, the best part about all of this is you're in this space. You're exciting with the exciting meta that you guys have picked. Mm-hmm. But I know it's not just the meta that you picked, because this came out of passion.
It did.
I want you to tell us, what was that passion driven by? Mm-hmm. And how did you come around with this pain point that you now want to solve for the next years to come?
So, I've been in blockchain. Well, look, I've been in motorsport my whole life. My father was actually heavily into cars. So F1, and in Australia we have a series called supercars and touring cars and GT3 cars. Has always been a very big passion of mine. And so when I got into crypto, and I guess I was a late adopter into crypto in sort of 2018, 2019, the whole DeFi world. Yep. I love the structure of it. Right. So, we talk about structure in a financial sense. And I got out of a project, call it in, I think it was sort of January, February earlier this year. And I was at the racetrack and someone said to me, $10, he puts it into the wall at turn one. And I just had this, oh my God, this aha moment. And that weekend I went home and I literally built out RPM, over the course of a weekend, code, the whole thing. And really, what drove me into what is RPM is that I wanted to create the intersection of content creation, motorsport, and then obviously prediction markets. And that has become now, what we call RPM. So, not to get into sort of any regulatory trouble, but RPM is, revs in a car, right? We all know, 1,000 RPM, 2,000, 5,000 RPM, yep. But it also stands for Racing Prediction Market.
Ah, I see. Because that was going to be my next question.
You didn't know that, did you?
No, I was going to ask you this actually. Yeah. What did RPM stand for?
Yeah. Right? So that's sort of the sort of cute play on words. But it's brought out sort of looking at Kalshi and Polymarket. They're quite, from a UX perspective, they're quite complicated, actually. Yep. And, you and I have worked on a couple of projects together and we have this love of Web2, yep. Right? And I think the Web3 is moving into or wants to move back into Web2, yep. Right? That's sort of common. Yep. Right, founders are now going, how can we get access to more sort of call it Web2 flow, yep. For lack of a better term. And so when I sort of looked at Polymarket and Kalshi, my dream was to in terms of from an RPM perspective was to simplify the process, for prediction markets, yep. Right, and really become a platform that other people can hopefully one day come and build upon.
Has this whole idea been validated?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk
to us. Tell us some more of the sort of traction. So you built it out. What came off it from there? I mean, you're into this whole motorsport. Mm-hmm. So this weekend aha moment. Yeah. By the way, did you crash in the wall?
Well, it wasn't me racing, but no, it was a friend of mine. I actually remember his name, but no, he didn't crash in the wall. So that prediction,
he lost $10.
He did.
All right. That $10 is the start of what's going to happen on RPM very soon.
Correct.
Right? So what's the actual core thesis around it? You said content creation, mm-hmm. You said prediction market, mm-hmm. And you said basically actual
and
motorsports.
Yeah.
What drives you personally into this whole niche of motorsports? Tell us, going back into a little bit of your passion for driving, yep. And why you think this is such a huge industry for diving into this, yep. And being that one niche that you guys just want to ace and be the best at it.
It's funny, it's a good question. I'll tell you why. If you were to go on ChatGPT or whatever and do research around motorsport and prediction markets, they would say, well, there's not enough data, yep. Right? This is the general view, there's not enough data because if you look at a Kalshi or Polymarket, if they do politics or they do sports, or this is why sort of NFL and sports betting and stuff like that is so big because there's so many different variables, right? So I'm answering your question backwards, but I'm bringing this to the forefront because the thing that really made me have the aha moment as it relates to motorsport and prediction market was that there is this disbelief that there's not enough data where there's actually so much data.
Yeah.
If you look at F1, and everybody knows F1, so F1 became very, very hot, from the Netflix series, when they released it in 2020, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
So everyone knew about F1 because of Netflix, and they did a sort of good job at I think why season 1 of that series was so successful was that they really made people realize that there's a lot more to motorsport than just jumping in a car and being fast, right? So you got to get tire temperatures into a window, right? You got to get your brakes into a window, right? But that window is, tires work with heat, but if they get too hot, then they stop working. And the same goes with any sort of brake applications. There are different fuels. There's turbos. Are they hybrid? There's DRS. There's so many variables inside motorsport. And it's one of the reasons, I've tuned a lot of cars in my life. When I say tune, I mean, put exhaust on them and change the computer and do all that sort of stuff to get more power. It's one of the reasons that I love, tuning cars is purely from the, the economics around the engineering side of things. Right. So if we take that view, where I think RPM hopefully will shine is that not even just in F1, how many car meets are there? How many, mates, doing street racing or not that we promote doing anything illegal, but you see my point, right? There's so much around, data that is, there is so much around if you take it from the Kalshi perspective, which is that we trade future outcomes. Right. There are so many future outcomes linked to motorsport, right? That one could either predict on or trade, et cetera, et cetera. Now, then go a step further into iGaming. Motorsport's a $90 billion a year industry, right? It has the least iGaming traction out of any sport. Because up until really the whole kind of Netflix series, The Drive to Survive, it was a very elitist sport, because it costs a lot of money. Right. Matt Solomon, his story, he will tell you it costs, they say that a parent will spend on average to get their kid to F2. I'm generalizing, close to $11 million. It's
definitely not a cheap sport.
No. By any means. So for me, it was, just to get down to basics, I love blockchain, right? I love DeFi. I think content creation, that's what you do, right? That is a business now in itself. Right. If you look at the NFT craze, right, that they really help content creators make money. And then I love motorsport. Well, imagine a world that they're all under one roof.
Perfect. I think that's it's a perfect way to package it. Now, I'm more curious on the actual different nuances of making this a success entity or a business, right? A lot of people have now known prediction market because of Polymarket and Kalshi, and I think there's obviously big sort of names behind them, and they have become global corporates or sure. brand names. How do you foresee RPM exist in that ecosystem?
Well, I think it's funny. A lot of people, they come to me and they say, "Oh my God, you're doing prediction markets." As you said, it's all the craze. Right. And the tech, we're very, very lucky at RPM. We have amazing devs, right? The tech for us was actually the easy part. Right. That wasn't the hard part. And so we've had so many people come and say, oh my God, can we white label it? And can you let's get into NFL, let's compete with Kalshi and Polymarket. We don't want to compete with them. Yeah. That's not what we want to do.
I would say anyone would be naive to
you'd be, if I can swear, you'd be fucking stupid. Yeah. Excuse my French. Yeah. And I respect those businesses, particularly, I just think, what Kalshi's done in terms of, who their led, even who their head counsel was, she now works for the, for the SEC, amazing business, right? Yeah. So our niche is that we are motorsport, right? Is that we don't want to branch out into football. We don't want to branch out. We want to get that right. Yeah. I think you've got to be pretty Web3 savvy to use Kalshi and Polymarket, right? Really, particularly from their order book model. Really, they look like an options book. That's kind of what they are. You're trading shares, between a price of, $0 and $1. right? And you have to put in limit orders. Liquidity is a problem. People provide liquidity. It's very sort of almost Web3 staking. I mean, even when I played with Polymarket, it was complex.
Yep.
So what we wanted to do, to go back to the Web2 stuff that we just spoke about, was that we really wanted to create a very Web2 experience for prediction markets. That's a simple yes and no.
Yep.
And our model is a little bit different. We're sort of a traditional Uniswap AWM model, right? So I think, why am I telling you all this? Because having that niche is very important for now. We're not here to compete with them. We're here to create our own, lane, if you will. I think the UX and UI is going to be, people are going to love. We've actually designed the whole thing like Netflix.
Yep.
You can pick a series like Netflix.
Wow. Okay.
And it'll be much easier to use. And then really putting fans and creators at the forefront of the platform. That's who we want. We want fans and creators to have a voice. And I say this a lot, really. What does RPM do for fans and creators? Well, it helps monetize, ultimately, right, their racing knowledge. Because if you speak to anybody, I mean, the girl who does our Instagram videos, right? Yeah. And she's now become a full part of the team. she is diehard F1. Right. Like, she's more fucking F1 than me, bro. Like, she's diehard. I mean, her knowledge on drivers, on F from F2 to F1 to tire compounds, brake compounds, fuel, the new regulations, DRS. She's just diehard F1. So RPM becomes a place where she can express that knowledge. Yep. And then ultimately hope, essentially monetize it.
Express knowledge, create content.
Correct.
Enjoy the content.
Correct.
Monetize.
Correct.
So I guess all of that becomes an inclusive home for this, this community, which then hopefully becomes a cult.
Correct.
For all these enthusiasts, motorsports enthusiasts.
Because ironically, I mean, you picked it. Motorsport fans or people who love racing, it is a big culty. You know what I mean? But then, mate, it goes. I mean, imagine applying that to MotoGP. Right, I'm not a big bike fan. I mean, I'm just not. But I have friends that love bikes. Yep. Right, so the same thing applies.
But Ben, now what if Polymarket and Kalshi, which by the way they already do, have
I know they do.
Motorsport. Mm-hmm. What if they just keep crushing it in that particular niche? What angle does RPM stand unique to the audience that you guys are targeting?
IRL, RWA. Like, that's our events.
Okay.
We're going to be very heavily focused on, and that comes at a cost, but we are going to be very heavily focused on IRL, RWA, meeting people around the world, putting on events. Yep. We're toying with the idea of having an RPM sim racing, call it, I don't want to say series, but maybe series or division, right, inside that'll be linked to the RPM platform. Yep. Right. So it's Kalshi and Polymarket already do. By the way, I saw the other day on Solana, I mean, Jupiter have started F1
as well. Yeah.
You saw that, right?
Yes.
So everyone's doing it.
Everyone will slowly start having a sort of element of prediction market into their.
But the difference again, and this is phase 2, is that we showcased this at our soft launch at the BMW Superfest in Australia. Yep. Was that we have a digital garage, right, and AR and avatars where you can start fractionalizing and trading cars and car parts. So that is the second stage of the RPM, call it, ecosystem.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the motorsport side, the motorsport prediction side of things is sort of the engine. Okay. Right. And then if you want to, not to sort of get into Yatsui territory, but if you want to get into the motoverse, well, you can then, fractionalize and trade digital cars and car parts. Right. With your friends, right? And we're already speaking to brands around the world, right? Or who do suspension and exhausts and whatever. Where this becomes very interesting for them, and this was mentioned when my partner was at the SEMA show in Las Vegas. Yep. Right. A lot of the parts, the high end parts, I'm talking like car, coolers or intercoolers or turbos, etc. You can't see them because they're in the car. Absolutely. Through the RPM tech, our AR tech, that comes to life. Wow. And then you can actually trade those parts, fractionalize them with your friends, so you can build a garage. Tell me this is the first place you're sharing all of this. This is. There you go, audience and viewers and fans of Bay Show. That's pure alpha right there. It is. Well, I mean, so how far along are you with this whole tech that you're talking about? So the My Garage. You mentioned some partners are ready to kind of white label that, keen and partner with you guys. Yeah, particularly in the motorsport. In Australia, the AR call it the My Garage section of the RPM ecosystem. They're very interested in, and obviously just being in Australia, that's who we reached out to because we're very heavily involved in the motorsport community there across SRO into the Bathurst 12 Hour, into supercars, into Carrera Cup Australia, etc. So they're extremely interested in that. What we decided to do, we being the core team, was put that on hold. For now to get the prediction platform up and running.
As like the first core fundamental foundation.
Correct, because only purely from a CAC perspective, if we want to use that word, it's the digitalization of cars and car parts is quite expensive.
Yeah.
Right? Just purely because we're using augmented reality.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff. And even the IP, when I say IP, if you're going to, let's say, an Akrapovic who does exhausts and you want to digitalize their exhaust, you can't really just call them and go, hey guys, send me your CAD drawings, because that's actually their IP. Right. So what we wanted to do was go, okay, and it's not so much that prediction markets are the craze, it's just that we'd already built the tech as it relates to the prediction markets.
Okay.
Focus on content creators and bringing them to the platform, give them a voice inside the RPM ecosystem with the backbone of the prediction market technology. At the moment, it's all built on Base, right? I actually met with the Coinbase guys 2 days ago.
Interesting.
So it's all built on Base. Get that up and going with a sort of a My Garage that'll say coming soon.
Yep.
Right, to then move into, once we've sort of got that sorted, to move into that My Garage section that relates to, fractionalization and digitalization of cars and or car parts with other brands around the world.
Very interesting. So what I'm seeing here is you're actually building this whole core foundation community that comes in based on that one fundamental prediction feature. Let's call it feature. And then that sort of turns into a social community. Which has a very common, I'd say, interest and passion, which then eventually turns into this whole mix of audience where you can create content, generate and monetize from that content, and then get really deep into the integrations of their own car parts,
Correct.
Which you can trade eventually,
Correct.
As NFTs, I'm assuming, and monetize from that.
Yeah. So we would say, this sounds corny. We would say we are the world's first decentralized motorsport exchange. That's actually what we would say.
Big aspirations right there.
Well, but I don't really know how else to describe it, because if you think about it, prediction markets are one thing, but they are, as you're now discovering. I mean, I hadn't even told you this, right? As you're now discovering, it's a very small part of what is actually RPM.
Right.
That's why we say we're at the intersection of content creation, motorsport, and prediction markets, because content creation is the digitalization, or could be the digitalization of a car or car part. Right. So that's a little bit hidden away at the moment as a bit of a, hey, this is what's coming soon.
Interesting. I see where this is headed to. Yeah.
So it's really, we are for lack of a better term, we are an exchange, and prediction markets form part of, well, you could say motorsport, decentralized motorsport ecosystem might be a better word.
Let me take one step back. You mentioned about the team. You've mentioned about the strength of, very explicitly saying the tech was the easy part, right? And of course, like when you talk about prediction markets or a platform, or let's just say generally something to build in the Web3, and when you incorporate blockchain, there's a lot more than just the tech. Right? Because then there's liquidity, there's network, there's partnerships, there's connections, there's
huge
marketing. Why is your team poised to be successful in building the so-called next decentralized motorsports ecosystem? Shine some light about yourself and the team.
And I wasn't saying that to be arrogant, by the way. I don't want you to think I was saying that to be arrogant.
For sure not. I think it's not I'm not saying it's a flex, but it's some sort of a level of confidence when you say you believe in your team.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I say this. I said this on my other two podcasts. I feel like I'm just a great chef. Really, what I've done is I've just gotten people who I think are much better than me.
And that's what makes a great leader, right?
Totally. Yeah. And they are. I mean, our head of strategy, our devs you haven't met yet, but who are much better than me. Right, and kind of put them together. So, our dev, he's based out of Austria. He was like 1 in 100,000 or something to get some scholarship into MIT. I mean, the kid is just, I was introduced to him by a team member inside RPM, And I remember speaking to him about RPM, and he loves cars.
Right.
But even the guy, I mean, it's fucking stupid. Even the guy that does our decks, who designs our decks,
Yeah.
right? He's now chatting to me on Discord about cars. He's like, "Oh my god, I love cars." This has sort of been the common theme, right? Everyone's just like, I love cars.
It's almost like a prerequisite on your resume. If you if you want to work with us, you got to love cars.
Yeah, I mean, now the whole team now inside RPM, they all watch F1. I mean, they were watching, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix before I was. I mean, I didn't go on the Sunday, but
I'm disappointed I wasn't called and I wasn't invited for F1.
well, it was hard for me to even get a ticket.
Next time, I'm supposed to, but guaranteed Monaco F1 with you next time.
Done. Or Australia. Definitely, you come to Australia.
All right.
I want you to come to Australia.
All right.
So, so I met this kid, and I said, he said, I'm in like 10 minutes. And, at the time I was exiting out of another business. So I didn't, capital was very, very tight. And, I didn't have, you can't just throw money at someone.
For sure.
So I really, what I did was the team owned a good stack of equity inside of RPM. I was I don't want to say I was generous because they deserve it, but that was my leverage, you call it. And what was interesting is that everyone was like, yes, I really just want to be a part of it, which sort of validated, I guess my own thought process and validated that, oh wow, maybe this is, the project is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I remember I said, look, can you build out a demo site, right? Let's do this. I said, I have this sort of AWM model I think is better. And him and I ran through some bonding curves and the code and, all that sort of stuff. And, he's really funny. He speaks like 3 words. Like he's just not a man of many words.
Right.
And he goes, oh yeah, I said, how long will you need? And, and he said, oh, I think a week. Anyway, 2 days later, he messaged me going site up. Like that's all he said. And I went on to the demo site and it was all there and it all worked.
Interesting.
Right. So to answer your question, I'm answering it backwards. It was through people's sort of repetitive actions inside the team that proved that, they could do this. And what was interesting was and we're very lucky, but the prediction side or putting up, the predictions side of RPM took us like a week.
Okay.
And it's been and we're going to have the code obviously audited and you do all those things and that will come, of course. But my point is it was just this, and then what happened was this sort of constant refinement of the technology. But also, blockchain is not where it was in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it has developed immensely.
100%.
Right. And so to sort of answer it in a backwards way, I think the tech has developed. There's so many, code's open source everywhere. Developers are getting smarter. And so we'll just look, not to sound too, call it God, call it whatever you want. I'm extremely lucky. And what that allowed us to do, which was great, was really focusing on the social element of RPM.
Right.
Which I think is going to be a big part of, why we're successful.
Absolutely, man. That's actually awesome. We all know anyone that has been building out there or is building, finding the right team member is just harder than finding a wife.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Because you actually spend, I say countless hours with them, day in, day out, building.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess that chemistry is super important.
Yeah.
In that regards, what would you say are your biggest challenges at this point?
Look, I think it's no secret that prediction markets live in a very grey zone as it relates to regulation.
100%.
Now we are pushing forward with becoming a licensed exchange. So similar, I really compliment Kalshi. I think their model is fantastic. Mm-hmm. They often are heard saying, "Well, what do we have to do with gambling? We're not, we're not a gambling site. We're fintech at exchange, right?" So we are doing the same. There's, I think that'll be a challenge. Right. And I think that, getting traction on, I think there'll be bugs. I think liquidity maybe potentially is going to be a problem. That's a problem for everybody,
yep.
Until we're at a size where we have, hundreds of millions in TVL and, we spoke about it earlier, right? That is definitely not lost on me, but, and actually what I'm actually finding more interesting, if you want to go back to the Web2 question, it's like we all hear prediction markets and know exactly what they are.
Yeah.
But people are like, wait, what? No, so you're gambling.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I was just about to ask you that. What do you have to say about prediction market is this a sophisticated way of gambling?
Yeah, but so is trading. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're speculating on a stock, I've been a trader for years, but you can say, well, I'm not a gambler because I do this, and this. You're speculating on a price movement going up or down. That is all you're doing. You are gambling. Now you're taking, by the way, there are professional gamblers who have rules, who can I mean, who've been in poker for years, who can count cards, who can do this, who can do that. So you can put in all the knowledge and infrastructure around, trading, right? And say, and hedge funds do it, but and you can make a career out of it. But are you gambling in some sense? I mean, of course, because you're outlaying capital that has risk, and then predicting. There's that word, but predicting on the movement of a security, right, or of a company, or of a asset, or it doesn't matter what it is, that it's going to do something in the future. Right? So trading is a form of gambling. I mean, we can all.
Well, I mean, life is a gamble.
Totally.
Right.
So
crossing a road is a gamble.
Correct. So, so the word gambling, what do you, okay, let's define it. But, are prediction markets some sort of, gambling mechanism? I mean, I don't see them as that, because I see them more as a sort of extension of what is an already, very kind of sophisticated derivatives, or perpetual market. Right, that's sort of how I see them. So you're trading being the same way that you would trade a perp or trade crypto or trade a share on the outcome of something in the future. I think it's almost so simply beautiful. Right? Are we gamblers going to the casino and do we have bookies? No. I mean, bookies want their customers or their users to lose. Mm-hmm. That's how casinos are built. They want people to lose, because the house, that saying, the house always wins. Yep. From an RPM perspective, we don't want you to lose at all.
Well, I mean, either way, as an exchange, you win in both ends anyway.
Fine, but totally. but I'm hoping that we want volume.
Yep.
Right. So we're trying to create mechanisms that our fans, or I hate the word users, because it sounds like I'm trying to like
milk.
Yeah, well, and I'm not. But it's we want our participants, right, to really come and spend a lot of time on the platform, because they love it and they enjoy it, and and we just take a spread. We're not here to rob anyone.
So truth is, prediction is gambling, and so is life is gambling. Everything is gambling in one way or the other.
Totally.
Ben, I've actually had the chance to check you guys out on Instagram. And you guys seem to be buzzing out there.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well, actually. It's quite surprising.
Tell me more about your traction in these recent events, or let's say past couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. What have you guys been doing on ground? What sort of validations have you received? What sort of feedback are you guys kind of working on?
Yeah, so I mean, the big thing for us was when we launched in October, when we got something like 3,500 users in the first, I don't know, it was like 5 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy. Right. And credit to the team from all the we had about, I think, 4 or 5 activation points at a racetrack where we, where you had to basically use the RPM tech to either do any of the digitalization on the AR stuff, or we called them, games, right? Because we didn't want to use, any sort of money at that point. We wanted to test the tech. Yep. Right. So you would get a bunch of like RPM credits inside the app, right? That you could then predict yes or no on certain things.
So that's all live.
Yeah,
it's all live right now.
It's not. It's been taken down because we're going to then put up the actual site.
No, got it. But that means those 3,500 users.
That's all there.
Have all interacted.
Yep.
Made some sort of actions.
Yep.
Accumulated some sort of points.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Great. That's great to hear.
Yep. So that was wild. And then what we did is we took, that was a site, a web app particularly for that event. Then we took the data that we got and, the mistakes that we made and we obviously analyzed it, right? And then that'll flow into, right, the wireframes that are being developed now for the launch, around Australian Grand Prix next year. That'll be when the site's, going to be live and launched.
What would you consider your biggest milestones in the short term?
I mean, I think liquidity is a problem. I mean, when we say liquidity, whether it be liquidity for, for prediction markets, if you want to call it that, or even just basic liquidity for, working capital, et cetera. Yeah. Right. I mean, this stuff is, to go down the road of becoming a inverted commas licensed exchange when you run, when you're in blockchain and using crypto, from a reg perspective, it's expensive. Yeah. It's expensive, right? We're a small, nimble team. I'm not a billionaire, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I'm not.
In the process.
In the process, correct.
We can all manifest that.
Yeah, correct. But that's anyone who is an entrepreneur starting something who says that liquidity is not a problem. Yeah. I mean, I just spoke to a girlfriend of mine this morning who is setting up an emotional data, AI where in emotional data as it relates to AI. Her and I talk often about the problems of, founders and raising capital, and then you've got people to pay, and, you're responsible for people to eat and all that sort of stuff. So
what's your plans on that though? Are you guys all self-funded, bootstrapping? Are you guys raising capital or have raised capital from funds?
we've raised a very small amount of money. When I say small, we've raised like 50 grand, right?
Okay.
From
That's
nothing, right? Purely because someone wanted to come in.
That's like an angel check.
It was literally, right? It was like they wanted to come in. She's a very old friend of mine. And so, I said, cool, come in for this. And, it just validated, I guess, that someone was interested in this was very, very early days.
Yeah.
It's all been self-funded up until, apart from that check.
Yeah.
We've just decided to do a raise.
Okay.
How much we're going to raise, we don't really know yet.
Got it.
When I say just decided, I got to Dubai, 4 days ago. It was like on the brink of this trip. That's sort of why we're here.
Yeah.
So we will do a raise and probably sell down in the nature of something like 10%. At what value? At what valuation? I don't know. At what? You know what I mean? It's really more
getting the PMF, getting more data points, more
correct.
More traction.
It's to be honest, mate. It's just money for marketing. That's what it is, right? Because if you look at anything from a DraftKings all the way through to Kalshi or Polymarket, I mean, their biggest expense is marketing.
Yeah.
Period. Right.
Let's talk a little bit about yourself on a personal level. How did you encounter, what have you been doing before crypto? What was your previous ventures?
Yeah.
And when you stumbled upon crypto, you mentioned about DeFi. I know we've spoken a lot about trading as well. Now that you're in this whole arena of building, what sort of what other stuff have you kind of let go of to kind of fully build this? But what sort of previous ventures do you kind of account and accrue for the sort of, let's say, the success that may come through with RPM in the near future?
Yeah, so the only job I've ever had, I actually thought about this, the only job I've actually ever had was when I think I was 21, and I was selling plastic molds to make fluorescent signage.
Okay.
That's the only job I've ever had. Then got into trading. I spent a lot of years in the sort of oil industry, right? Okay. Physical and the derivative side of things. Always been just loved, really out of high school, loved the whole sort of markets, trading, that whole thing. So I trade even now. I don't trade that much now because of RPM, really. But yeah, so I did a lot in perps. I worked for a prop shop for a long time. And then my life sort of ended up, I ended up sort of, I guess, call it, for lack of a better term, on my knees, right, around 2019 or 2018. And I learned to meditate with an old friend of mine. And then we went on to sort of found a health and wellness blockchain-based project that I exited or I'm no longer a part of, which really I would say was the foundation for, a lot of the stuff that is happening here at RPM, because I learned so much just through that process. Yeah. Right. I mean, we set up a foundation in BVI. We set up a token company in the BVI. We had holding companies in Australia. Yeah. We were looking to do ADGM. Right. So we went through, that whole FTX thing. There was a lot that happened really in blockchain from 2020.
You know exactly the pitfalls to avoid.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I would say that I've failed, quite a lot. And so I don't want to say that I failed, meaning it is those failures that you learn. Yeah. You really learn what not to do.
You learned some expensive lessons.
Very. Yeah. And so that sort of has propelled into, RPM is just, really, February, it's like 7 months. What we've done in 7 months is insane. Yep. But because I just knew just from past experiences that, okay, I didn't want to do that, or I wanted to do that, or I would have liked to have done that, or that didn't work. And so because of that, I was just able to, I guess, navigate, the build a lot faster. Yeah, and then also, obviously relationships. But failure has been, I would say, I wouldn't say I'm super successful now, but failure has been my biggest success because, then you learn.
100%. I mean, especially, and I say this to almost every founder out there. Building in Web3, one, isn't cheap.
No.
Two, you're definitely bound to fail at least once or twice.
Yep.
Maybe even thrice sometimes, just because it's such a unique market.
Yep.
Right? The nuances, the variables, the levers in the traditional world in Web 2 does not work in Web 3.
And it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Right? Because you're maneuvering around a certain uncharted territory in most case scenarios, whereby you're almost like the first victim
Actually.
And then you kind of realize, and you become like a benchmark for the rest of the people to then realize like what not to do.
Well, and it's so different everywhere. I mean, you look at, reg, in the US is so different as it relates to crypto, yeah? It's so different to what it is in Australia. Yeah. Tax in the US is so different
For sure.
than what it is as it relates to crypto, so different to what it is in Australia or London or wherever, right? Yeah. And so AML, KYC, all that stuff, right? It's and crypto is also, when I say crypto, blockchain, the whole industry is changing so quickly.
100%.
Right?
100%.
And so goalposts keep sort of, moving quite quickly. And you are 100% right. It is very expensive. I think from my experience, I think it has gotten cheaper, right? And maybe that's because I've been in it for so long and I've set up a couple of things. So I think it sort of was very cheap. And when I say very cheap, I mean setup costs. I think it was sort of very cheap.
Yeah, that's because you've gone through it once, right?
Well, not twice,
Twice.
Actually, yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, founders have this misconception of walking into this industry or this market and just being able to ace it the first time just because they've seen some sort of headlines out there that this particular project has done extremely well, raised this much of, 8 or 9 figs, and they can hope to kind of replicate that sort of success.
By the way, not to cut you off, I mean, look at Pump.fun.
There's never going to be the second Pump.fun.
No, but they are trading on that because they have a whole bunch of people who come and go, fantastic, I'm going to launch a meme coin and make a fuckload of money, right? And like something like only 1%.
I kid you not, right? Like we talked about, there's this whole thing of internet capital market.
Yeah.
You've seen, or you can see some really legit Web2 projects or founders that literally had the hope of coming into Web3 and be able to tokenize and kind of envision that their tokens would only go up only to realize like it went up and boom, all the way down.
Yep.
And now they have a token that's actually linked with their Web2 business, and more than that, their reputation as well.
And it's gone. By the way, I say this to people all the time. Just because blockchain exists and it's the craze doesn't mean everything should be on fucking blockchain.
For sure.
Doesn't mean everything should be a token.
Yep.
Right. So, I have so many people coming, and I would say, that was a realization I guess I made, early on this year. But I've had so many people ring me lately and go, oh, I want to token this and token that. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to. It doesn't need to be on chain just because blockchain is, okay, it's the next evolution, but does everything need to be tokenized? No. Now, the argument then is, do I think everything will at some point become a token? Sure. But we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
100%. We speak with founders. I speak with founders that I genuinely feel bad for.
Yeah,
at times when, one, they've just been advised on the wrong deal, or let's say advised on the wrong reason to come into the space, or just had this whole different mindset to come into space and hope something else.
Yep.
Right. And like I said, like this space is just fast moving. Two, the actors in this space don't always have the best intentions. The market here is unforgiving. And of course, liquidity is not cheap. And actually, liquidity is the number one, or let's say one of the most important variables to succeed.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, also I think it's funny, right? Like people, particularly investors, right? They want trade-fi risk, right? So they want absolutely no risk, but with inverted commas, crypto returns.
Correct.
So it doesn't exist.
Correct.
So the market's at this weird disposition where it's going, APY on stablecoins, we'll speak on this morning. It's what? 4%?
Yeah.
3% maybe?
Yeah.
If you're getting 6, you're killing it. Yeah. Maybe you get 6 on like Bybit on a locked.
The safe havens.
Yeah, the safe havens. Yeah. But are they? Who knows? But my point is like, so then I think the challenge for any founder, particularly if you're in crypto, is that investors go, well, yeah, I want 200x, but I want it, like a treasury bond in terms of risk. It doesn't exist. I actually think the market needs to go back to offering crazy APY to attract liquidity, right? Because we're sort of at this weird sort of like this kind of strange kind of stalemate. Now, the only thing that I will say is I think that the flow back into BCC as it relates to in and out of meme coins, right, back into BTC's kind of become a bit of a safe haven, which I think is the market maturing.
Yeah.
But the reality is, crypto, it is a risk asset. It is.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, we've also got to acknowledge that, how we as retail that have been around in the space always hoped and imagined the retail will come and they will be, the institutions will come and they'll be our exit liquidity.
Yeah, totally.
In return, they actually outperformed us and they beat our ass
Yes.
to it nicely.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of the liquidity has been moving around from one pocket to another within those big boys.
Yeah.
And, for the Wall Street, for the traditional finance, for them, it's always how do we get out and extract the maximum amount of liquidity?
Correct.
With the different asset class now.
Correct.
Right. And that mindset of the degens that we have, like the 100x's or like the 200x's, will slowly die off because in reality,
It doesn't exist.
it exists. It used to exist.
Correct.
But we're just being washed out
Correct.
time and again. And that diminishing returns will slowly just keep dying off.
And to go back, not to cut you off, but to go back to your question about why do I think that hopefully RPM becomes a big success? I mean, I only focused on our revenue model from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because in everything else that I've done, that was a bit, maybe I'm not going to say it was pushed to the side, but that wasn't our focus. So I really wanted to have a very clear and succinct, this is how we and other people make money. Yeah. So that when we went to investors, if they asked me any of those questions, I could just answer bang, 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 right? To go back to your point, investors in this, Web2 investors want to come into crypto, but they're scared because there's been so much that's happened, right? I mean, FTX, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. I've only ever been ripped off twice in my life, but all of it has been in blockchain. No, but seriously, do you know what I mean?
Were you safe during the 1010 liquidations?
Yes, that was okay.
Okay.
But so it's just, I don't want to talk negatively about the space. Bear in mind, that also happens, in Web2 too.
100%.
But it's, I think that there are a lot of people who understand the technology much better than others.
Yeah.
You get people that come and place capital, right, who have great intentions and they get fucked, right?
Well, I think one thing we can start seeing though, and this is the positive outcome of everything that we've seen of how people have got washed in this past recent couple of months, or let's say this entire 2025, is we're starting to see the appreciation of real business as in real business sense of
Correct.
building, right? A lot of people kind of said, oh, hey, we're finally getting this revenue meta. I was like, why do we call it a meta?
Yeah.
Right? Because in reality, business has always been about what sort of revenues you guys bring back on the table.
Of course.
Right? Revenue minus expenses is profits.
It's very simple.
Right? And essentially, that has to be the core driving factor or principle of every business out there, be it blockchain or not.
But you saw it with with the whole tech. I'll call it like the sort of VC tech bubble.
For sure. I mean, I don't disagree.
100, 200. They were investing 100, 200 times earnings.
Yeah.
Right. These companies didn't make any money.
Yeah.
They made. There were so many of them. They actually made no money, or they lost money every year.
And we've seen what happened to them.
Totally.
The biggest of the soft banks or whatever. Right?
Yeah, all of them. So it's But I will say this: I think the space is definitely evolving. There are great businesses in the space,
yeah.
And not to be too sort of crypto bro, but blockchain with RWA is now starting to exist, right? And I mean, I live, in terms of even off ramp, on ramp, off ramp. Like I live like 70-80% now on chain.
Yeah,
I spend I literally spend stablecoins.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm actually, apart from like my rent or other things that that need to be transferred, and people and staff and stuff like that. Like I live on chain. Like I live on chain. I mean that was non-existent
100%
5 years ago. So the space is definitely developing. I mean, back in the day it was all about a token price. Now it's all about their market cap.
Yep.
Right. So it's, or their diluted market cap. So, people are starting to apply TradeFi, narratives to what is blockchain, right? And which I think is a good thing. I think that people are certainly looking at how, inverted commas, whether it's a DAO, whether it's a blockchain-based company, whatever it is, how they make money.
Yep.
Right. So I think the sort of correction that we've seen, and not this particular one. I mean, this correction that we've had now was just a liquidity. That was just a leverage,
right?
A leverage play, right?
Or not.
Yeah, maybe. I get it, but I think the space is developing, but and it's very exciting. But in terms of for us, for RPM, it's nice to be at a point where, where it makes sense. Like, why have prediction markets on chain? Well, low latency, speed, blah, 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 right? So
What's the wet dream for you when it comes to RPM? And let's say
we become
3 years from now.
Hyperliquid pump.fun, for decentralized motorsport. That's
Boom.
that's the big kind of fuck you goal.
Okay. That's actually very straight to the point.
Yeah.
And I like that.
And I think if you look at a pump.fun, that's what they do. They provide the infra, they provide the infrastructure for people to come and do stuff on top of, right? And hopefully that is what we do at RPM, and everyone has fun in the process.
Ben, who's your favorite founder that you look up to? Or let's just say you have the inspiration or motivation.
Oh, it's such a big question. Just Web3?
Anything. Could be Web2 or Web3.
There's actually, funny, there is a guy in Australia who is actually a lawyer.
Okay.
Right? And his name is Adam Laurer. And he works at a big law firm in Sydney. Him and I have become very, very close. And I very much look up to, he does big deals, like $600-700 million, $1 million deals. I very, very much look up to him and the way that he sort of runs his life and what he does.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's just one person. We need another podcast. I've done a lot, or I've lived a lot of life in my life, been through a lot of pain, a lot of heartache and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's...
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm very interested to hear that.
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of different people. But in terms of, in terms of crypto, I think Kane Warwick's fantastic. I love what they're doing. I love what he did with Synthetics. I love what he did with Infinex. I think he's really, he's changing the game, as it relates to DeFi, etc. I think SNX, was light years ahead of the game in terms of tokenizing assets, etc.
Yeah.
So he's someone that I respect a lot and I follow quite intensely. And then just other, I guess, personal people in my life that keep me on the straight and narrow, so that I don't, save me from myself, basically, if that makes sense. And again, I'm conscious of the time, but that's a whole nother podcast, which I'm happy to go into with you.
We'll get there at some point. Yeah,
we should.
Definitely once. I will definitely want to follow up and see in the next 6 months where RPM is going to be, because I know that we're going to room.
I hope so. I think so. I think it's good. Look, it's great timing. Call it God. Call it whatever you want. And I genuinely it sounds corny. Like I love what I do. Yep. I love, as in
you better be, bro.
Yeah.
You better love what you're doing.
Like we just finished a deck for RPM. I actually had fun. I used to not load that stuff, but it certainly wasn't me.
One is lucky when he can wake up and enjoy what he does and not call it work.
Yeah, inshallah. Yep.
I asked this question in the beginning of the show. Is prediction market a meta, or is it here to stay?
It's here to stay.
Why?
Mate, it is evolution of trading. Like it focuses on, it focuses on an outcome of a real event. Any event, right? Any event. Can be anything, right? And it's evolution, or it's essentially evolved the way that, call it gambling if you want to, but the way that people can trade, events or predict certain things, right, and then monetize them. I think it's for sure it's here to stay. And now, look at Kalshi and Polymarket. People are getting data from it. The US election was won on Polymarket. You know what I mean? We knew Trump was in because Polymarket, because of Polymarket.
They actually dictate actual outcomes. So.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Can I flip this? What do you think it's a meta, or do you think it's here to stay?
I believe it's here to stay. However, I do believe there's going to be adoption, and let's say in terms of graphs, it's going to be adoptions and then pullbacks to actually bring back reality of what people actually perceive and build around it, and eventually evolve with regulation to dictate what can be built and how it will be built and what sort of evolving variables will be around that.
And I agree with you. I think that's also natural.
Correct. So it's like, I think it has become one of those things that has sparked a whole entire new wave.
Yeah.
In my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Now, in my personal opinion, do I think you or anyone, I'm not saying you as an RPM, like does anyone, do you want to be in the space of building another Polymarket and Kalshi just because you think you can? I think that's, again, stupid.
Very.
But if you actually want to build something that aids or complements or gives a retail an edge to, be able to win that sort of interesting angles of being able to leverage from the Polymarkets and the Kalshis of the world, that's where you have a market.
It's correct, and it's what it is. It is monetizing. It is. I say it all the time. It is helping people monetize their knowledge in a new way.
Correct.
That is all that does.
Because everyone just wants to figure out how to make money.
Yes.
Right? If you can provide value to someone by just showing them, educating them, being able to give them those tools of making money, you're God.
Yeah, correct.
You're God. Right? That's where cults are built.
Yep, correct. I agree with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would have loved to kind of continue this conversation. Ben actually started off this whole new, I'd say a lot more different, I'd say insights to his past life experience. But as of today, I'm super excited to see where RPM is going to come.
Thank you, brother.
And I am sure that you're going to see a lot more of Benjamin Jarrett, prediction market, motorsport, the intersection with content creation, motorsports, and prediction market. Again, guys, Ben, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the Base Show.
Thank you.
Thanks for thanks for accepting and coming on here and sharing a little bit more about RPM. I would love to see where RPM is going to be in the next 6 months or so, and I'm going to take you up on that offer of F1 at Australia and then eventually Monaco.
Yeah, good. You're going to come. I'll make you pay for Monaco. I'll pay for Australia.
All right, guys. Signing off from the Base Show. Until the next one. Cheers.